Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello, everybody. Welcome to one more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. And this week, joining us from Germany is Aria Omidvar. Hey, Aria. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Vasco, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So Aria has more than 4 years experience as a Scrum Master, as a product owner, and also as Agile Coach, from single teams to multiple teams and the whole software organization. He's a software engineer turned software developer turned Peopleware Developer. I like that. And Agilist. So Aria, that was a short intro. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and how did you end up becoming a Scrum Master?
I will save you and your audience from telling more about myself because I can go on and on and on forever and put people to sleep. But I'm going to talk about how I became a Scrum Master. I think still we don't have any generation who wanted to become a Scrum Master. I think we all became Scrum Masters accidentally. We bumped into it in a sense. And I'm definitely one of those. So to give you a little bit of a story, to have a bit of flavor there. I studied computer science in Iran at a time that feels like a lifetime ago, and it was a lifetime ago. It was actually 20 years ago. Damn, I'm getting old, man.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Aren't we all though?
I don't know. I mean, I feel young, but still. So it was a while ago, and there, I was really into algorithms and data structures, and I was quite good at it, at the algorithm side of stuff. And I thought, this is it. This is what I'm going to be doing. I had no clue about commercial software development. That has nothing to do with algorithms. And there was one course about what was called software engineering. And it was basically, the lecturer taught us RUP. And I was
Rational
also,
Unified Process, for those of you who don't know the acronym, yeah?
Exactly. Something that I've heard some people falsely calling Scrum a heavyweight framework, who clearly they don't really know what they're talking about. When you see RUP, then you know what a heavyweight framework is. And and I mean, back then I fell in love with it, to be honest. Like I had no idea about Agile or any of that. And there is a chance that I would be a player for the other team. If life had taken a different turn, I would not be an Agilist, I would be an anti-Agilist. But that didn't work, so good for that. I mean, in Iran, I changed a few jobs after university, software, but also not so software. I also taught a little bit of English, which is, I don't know, comes from my love for English. I didn't really plan to teach it or anything. And I came into Germany. I studied computational linguistics. I got a much better understanding of object-oriented programming. I did Java mainly, but also some Python. And then I entered the job market. And in an internship for 6 months, I was in a team that was doing something that they called Scrum. And today I would not call it Scrum. At best, you could call it lazy Scrum or flaccid Scrum. I don't know, there are different names and terms for this. And then I joined another company, again for 6 months. They also claimed to be doing Scrum. Oh God, that's an insult to Scrum. But back then I had no idea. I thought, okay, this is it. And this Scrum thing never really came to my attention because it was like, yeah, it was just another thing that was around. Like there was nothing about it. And then for my next job, I went to this team that was absolutely and entirely different from any team I had been in before. And the one thing that was different about them was that they acted like one entity, like one team. They were not a group of individuals reporting to the same manager or something. It was insane. And I was
bet
like,
that felt very different.
It was awesome. And I was in also a very low part of my professional life. The previous experience was really devastating for me. It really sucked up my soul. I really had lost a lot of my confidence, what people usually call imposter syndrome and those stuff. Like we always struggle with a degree of those stuff, but I was really, really low. And this team just lifted me up. And I had, for example, back then I knew Java development, but I didn't really know Spring Boot or any of the frameworks or tools and technologies they were using. And they onboarded me so gracefully and so humanely, if that's a word in English, that it was just mind blowing. And out of, again, a pure accident, one of the developers who was also part-time Scrum Master of the team, who came from a consulting agency, was leaving. And the team was like, so we have to replace the Scrum Master. And the product owner turned to me and he was like, and it was like maybe the second month.
Aria, your turn.
yeah, exactly. He was like, what about you, Aria? Now, deep inside, I wanted to say, please me, but I just didn't have the courage. I was like, I'm so new in this team. And I had lost so much of confidence. And to some degree, I would even dare to say my professional dignity from the previous months, that I just didn't dare to say that. And man, it was a match made in heaven. Like the first retro that I held, I was in my element, as Ken Robinson.
So you discovered kind of a calling then.
You could say that. I mean, I started devouring videos of Jeff Sutherland and Ken Schwaber, because that back then it was like, I'm going to stick with these guys. That's all I know. And
it's good to stick with very few ones at the start, because we really need to kind of start learning, right? And
exactly.
Aria, we're going to go into the failure story, because today is Monday here on the podcast. So we're going to talk about maybe one of those difficult moments, because it's not only developers who have those difficult moments, of course.
Yes.
So tell us that story. We'll dive into the details later and to the takeaways later, but tell us that story.
So the story of the biggest failure I've had as a Scrum Master was actually with the same team that onboarded me. And I learned about Scrum, and I became a Scrum Master there. Later, I also took a Scrum certification. I was so damn lucky that I had Jeff Sutherland himself holding the training. And we had lost a few team members, a few very influential team members, and the pandemic had hit. So we had gone full remote, and it was I think it was the quarantine time. So it wasn't even possible to make it hybrid or something. The team had changed in ways that courage that we had, and we would just like madly.
So it removed the courage, you mean?
I would say so. I mean, of course, I'm telling the story from my own point of view, but things had changed, and there were these recurring issues that the team would just ignore them. They would come up in every other retro, and the team just didn't want to tackle them deeply. And I mean, I was also a software developer / Scrum Master, so I was spending maybe 95% of my time developing, and 5 to 10% of my time doing the retro other stuff. And then I was really, really upset with this. And I said, okay, I'm going to design a retro for all of these issues to come to surface and take it from there. And I did that, and I succeeded. All of these deeper issues came to surface, And we had this retro board on a Miro board, and it was like, I don't know, 5 or 6 categories after clustering them and everything. However, the time almost ran out, and I kind of knew it. I knew that, okay, this is much deeper than one retro. Of course, in one retro we cannot tackle this. I said, okay, we have different ways to do this. We can continue the retro, but then let's face it, it's going to be a 3-hour retro. We are not going to be able to do that, and we don't like that. What we can do is we can schedule sessions for follow-up sessions for each of these clusters. So like that's going to be our action point. We're going to hold a session. We're going to go discuss, come up with possible reasons, possible solutions, and take things from there. And 2 of the team members called, and they were like, no, we're not going to extend the retro, of course. I mean, I also agreed with that, but they also said, we also don't want to do that. We have to wrap this up. And so basically they were asking me, no, we don't want to get to the root cause of things. We want to just have a retro and be happy. And
what you're saying, if I understand correctly, is that they wanted to feel that they had talked about something, but that was it.
In this particular occasion, yes. Like they just wanted to wrap the retro up and feel good about it. And I didn't want them to feel good about it, because there was nothing to feel good about. There were a lot of issues, and the team was not tackling them. And then 2 of the teammates used words that probably later they might have regretted. One of them said it was a useless retro. The other one said it was a waste of time or something like that. And it really put me off. I absolutely lost it. I sat back and I said, so you do what you like from here on. Looking back, I have nothing but regret and shame, to be honest, looking at that moment, because I lost faith in them. I lost hope in them, and I gave up on them. And that's probably, in my book of a Scrum Master, the biggest sin of all, to give up on your team. And we went to a recession, to a lunch break. We came back and I just sat back. I said, I'm not going to do anything. If you don't want to improve stuff, what's the point? We want to go through the ritual and be happy about it and high five each other.
So you were trying to provoke them into a reaction.
To be honest, at that point, I had just lost hope. I was like, I wasn't even trying to provoke anything anymore. I was like, this is it. This is a lost cause.
So when you look at that story, kind of with today's eyes and today's experience, what do you wish you would have done differently at that point?
I think, to be honest, with my degree of involvement in the work, because I was also a developer, I could see all of the problems on the code level. I could not have been too detached from it. I think I would have gotten as emotional as I got. But what I should have done, to my knowledge today, I should have just opened up to them and shared my pains and frustrations. I think that would have been the wisest thing and the most humane thing. It's, hey guys, I'm a human. I'm learning every day, every week to become a better Scrum Master, but we need to tackle stuff as a team. And if you don't want to improve certain shortcomings and we want to just look at the surface and just treat them on a shallow level, I'm all in, but then I have to give up on some of my professional dignity, and it's difficult for me. So we need to find a solution, a compromise. I think it would have touched them in a much better way. They would have noticed that, like, where my frustration comes from, it came out like kind of a passive aggressive attitude, and it was just really, really unprofessional and in the lingo
although
of the
course,
uncool.
Hearing your story, I can say that it also feels quite natural that you would take that attitude, given that you were so invested into making things better And you were also feeling the pain of not getting things better. And here they are, your colleagues, whom should have at least an understanding of what the shared future looks like. That's, of course, an important part of being a team. And they are just sitting back or sitting back and saying, no, we don't want to fix any of this. We just want to move on and be happy that we've had a conversation, but we don't want to take any learning from it. We don't want to take any change from it. And I feel like you did at that time when I hear this story. I feel like anger and like, oh, come on, guys, why aren't you taking action? You see the problems, you even talk about them. So I also see that it's a totally, to use the word you've used, humane reaction to be angry.
Yeah. And I mean, to be honest, like one thing that made me even like more frustrated was that I knew who these guys are. I knew how good of a professional each of them is. And I had seen their better days. And that was even more hurting, that I had seen this team falling from greatness. No, but I felt like a team that has had moments of greatness is now fallen into mediocrity and is satisfied with that.
Yeah.
And that does not sit well with me at all. Like mediocrity is like my biggest enemy.
Of course, we need to live with those burdens that we carry with us, right? Because it is your reaction, not their reaction. This is one of the hard parts of being a Scrum Master, is that we need to accept that people have the right to make their own, in our mind, wrong decisions.
Of course.
But it is absolutely also important for us to recognize that as Scrum Masters, we are also humans. Thank you for sharing that story, Aria.
My pleasure.
Monday is about what we learn from our obstacles and our failures. But tomorrow is Team Tuesday here on the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. We explore teams and their journeys, the habits they develop that threaten their performance, how each of our guests helped their teams evolve, and the one key lesson they learned from that experience. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.